welcome back. So we're at the next stage here, and as you can see, I've got my helper handy. He's almost 1 year old now. So down below here, I've got a couple new materials. This product here is something I picked up off Amazon. It is a flexible fence, and if you see up close, there are some holes every 2 or 3 ribs, and this allows me to nail down the curvature of the lane. Now, as you can see, the 2 lanes are right here. Now, the reason why I have my strip furthest away from the outside lane is because my router has a radius from the center point of the cutting tool. And as you can see here, I've 3D printed a part because the one that came with the router was square. And I didn't want to use the square fence along the side here. I just thought it might be a little too awkward. Oops. Obviously I don't have this nailed down because I'm going to do this straight run first. But I made that circular bit here. This is exactly 5 inches across. So all I'm doing is I'm marking this fence at 2.5 inches from the edge to center. And I'm just going to scroll segments of this curved track as I go. These pieces here were about I want to say 20 or 30 bucks each, and they're 2 meters long, which is just a little bit over 6 feet. So this is kind of the next step, is to get a couple sections nailed down. I'll probably just start with 1 lane, work my way all the way around, and then I'll work on the other lane. And then once I'm finished both, I will go around and sand and put some wood filler in to make sure that there's no imperfections in the track surface. And then from there we can paint. Now for paint, just went to Home Depot and picked up a little tester size container of red and blue. And I picked up a quart of nice gray. I'm gonna paint the lane markers first. So after this routed, I will paint the inside of the groove red and blue, the one I'm hiding underneath here. And then once the grooves are painted, I will just surface paint the whole track gray so that it covers up any imperfections in the red and blue that I've laid down. And then from there, I might look into doing some scenery, or we'll do some black and white track limit borders in some locations. And so there's quite a bit of work ahead of us, but I'm just going to get started on the routing part, and we'll move on from there. Okay, so I've lost my little helper here, but I've got this 1 lane of this straight section ready to go. And I've got the curve of this all finished right up to here. And this one's only partially ready from this nail forward. So I'm just gonna try and route this out real quick and see how it looks. Wish me luck. So if you're like me and you find yourself routing your first track, I would recommend getting yourself a half decent router. This Ryobi one, I had some concerns about it being any good, but I found that with this specific bit that I bought from Slot Car Corner and I think it's a 1.5 amp hour battery, I didn't have any issues at all with routing this track. So just make sure you're equipped with the right things so you're not getting frustrated. I was able to route this track to about 75% with just the 1 battery, so the tool and the bit itself go a long way. So as you can see here, after it's been routed, it basically is kind of filled itself in. And what I've found is that the cut material is actually kind of buried in there. So what I've been doing is taking a little screwdriver and kind of loosening it up as I vacuum it out. But the overall cut line, where is that cut line? Right there. It's actually quite clean. I just need to adjoin this section with the one that I just cut. I should have made this a bit longer this way, so I could have just finished it in one pass, but hey, we're learning as we go here. So I'm just going to vacuum this out and I'll show you what it looks like when it's finished. So at this time, all I have is that and this, and then a little section of this is complete. But I mean, aside from nailing down the fence and stuff, it's only taken like, I don't know, 30 seconds to route that. So it's a bit time consuming to get it all done, but you know, I think with an afternoon I could probably have this all routed and finished. So I'm gonna see if I can get these two segments moved before the night is over, and maybe I'll be able to route after the kids go to sleep. Let's keep going. One thing that I didn't cover was what material I was using to fasten these down. So as you can see, this flexible fence is pretty loose on these screws. What these are, it's a 1-inch smooth finishing nail. It just has a very small head on it. Put that in focus. I don't want to pound this down all the way because it'll just make it harder to get up, but I didn't run into any issues with the router lifting or causing this to move around. So I'm hoping that once these nails are kind of half driven in, I can just pull them out quite easily. Look at that. Piece of cake. Only just a slight pressure into the table. Oh, looks like the heads are actually capable of coming straight through the... that's okay. Some of them are coming out, some of them are staying in. It's not a big deal. Just make sure they don't hit the floor and get into our winter tires that I just put on. Anyways, we'll get this done and we'll move on to the next step. I think to get these out, I'm just gonna use some small pliers, pull on the heads. Seems to be the, say it's going to be efficient. I'm not so sure it's efficient, but it's effective. So this is what we're going to do moving forward. To finish off this little gap here, I've just put this straight edge down again, and I'm hoping that I can just put the router back in. That's not quite perfectly aligned yet, but get it back in the groove and just finish this off. Just put the router in first. And then I'll snug my fence up to it. That should do the trick to get it finalized. Let's try this out. Okay, I just routed that unfinished segment and we'll see how it looks after it's been adjoined. Let's say it's as close to perfect as I'm going to get it right now. There's a little bit of a, you know, something happening there, but I'm pretty sure that a guide will not have an issue with that. Maybe I can do some wood filling and just kind of reroute that if needed. Anyways, we're going to carry on. I got that one fully lifted. I ended up pulling all the nails out just to kind of reset the tool, and we'll get them all installed properly rather than relying on them to be kind of half inserted into this fence. I don't think that's going to work. Yeah, as you can see, that one's staying. These ones have come out, so I've been popping them out just to be on the safe side. So one thing that I'm going to try and do here is reuse some of the holes that I have put in to make the first mark to start the second group of marks. So I'm going to work on this lane up to this, probably up to and beyond this crossover point. And then once I get that one done up to wherever it ends here, I'll try and get this one brought into the inside of this and then backtrack into the over in that area so that this whole section is done, and then maybe I'll kind of work my way this way and do the parallel lane up to and including this point. One thing I decided on was, I think in this zone here I might actually take this lane in tighter so that they kind of come close to one another, just to kind of give that car a bit more room from this edge. We'll see how it turns out, but I'll resume installing this and then we'll go from there. One thing I didn't mention was my 5-inch plate has got me measuring 2.5 inches from my preferred lane location to the edge of this fence. Initially I was pencil marking a 2.5 inch dot just to give myself that line for this edge here, but now I've kind of gotten a bit lazy, and what I'm doing without the phone camera in my hand is I'm just using the ruler, getting it at the 2.5 and just nailing it in place. It just seems to be going a little bit quicker. Really, I think it's one way or the other, but this seems to be working okay, and I'm happy with the turnout, so I'm just going to keep doing it this way. This flexible fence product was worth every dollar. I know that there's other products out there on the market that are geared towards slot car track making. I just don't think that they can achieve the bend radius that I'm getting into this piece, as you see it right here.
Oh, it's very nice.
So while performing this cut here, this is where I've made my first mistake, and I'll illustrate why here in a few seconds. It really has to do with how much pressure I'm applying on the tool against the fence. We'll go into further detail in a few seconds here. One thing I'd like to warn you about is when you're vacuuming this dust, you might get a little shock through the vacuum hose itself. I was wearing flip-flops in the garage, and every once in a while I'd get a poke through my toes, and it was actually quite alarming. So one comment that I have with this flexible fence is don't push too hard on it. I was pulling the tool towards me pretty firmly on this stretch here, and you can actually see just between the nails it seems to be just kind of minorly jogging left and right. And then once I got to here, it just smoothed out because I was doing it lightly with one hand. So I'll have to adjust my tactic here with the router and the fence, rather than pulling it towards me just to maintain a tight fit to the fence. I'm just going to let it walk gently along the side of the surface. In case you were wondering what tool I'm using here to cut these straight lines, this is called a Bora Straight Cut Guide. It's 8 feet long, but it can be broken down into 2 4-foot long pieces, and it has this nifty little locking mechanism that keeps it taut. If you have numerous straight runs on a track like this, you can move this tool from one line segment to the next quite easily. I highly recommend this tool if you're planning on building a track that has any straight lines. It'll save you a lot of time and headaches for sure. Now, I'm sure the sequence of events in this video probably are different than what I had originally said I would complete in terms of segment by segment or lane by lane. I'm kind of jumping around on whatever makes sense to complete in the moment. A lot of times that's just how my brain works. I do one thing and I think I would do the next thing subsequently afterwards, but then I find something else that seems more important or quicker to do if you stay in the location that you're in. So bear in mind with my constant diverting from the original plan. It's just the way that it is sometimes. So here, I'm trying to connect this line over to here. So all I'm really doing is just laying the router down, make sure that it's up against the fence and that the router bit is actually kind of free moving in that slot there. And then same thing over here, just I want to make sure that it's as closely lined up as we can. Right here I can see that my fence isn't touching the router here, so I'm gonna have to move these two pins just to make sure it's a good tight fit. Later in this video, you'll see that the track is almost complete, but there are some things that I wanted to share with you that I needed to adjust later that I would like to include in this video, so just bear in mind with that sudden change later in the video. So as you can see, there's some slight imperfections to doing this in pieces. I got a little bit of a deflection here that I'm gonna have to fix. This turned out quite nice. I think that this is gonna work out okay. I might have to just verify that this car is not gonna cause issue with that little tab there, but we'll figure that out as we go. And then here, this is problematic. So I'm just gonna, I'll probably route that straight. Might have to just fill this with wood filler and smooth out the difference there, but ultimately we've got one lane that's more than half done, I would say, and we'll get the other one caught up here shortly, and I'm hoping to have this finished by today. Oh yeah. This flexible fence tool has really made this go a lot faster than I thought it would. I think on the next track I would like to have more than just 2 of them. It would be nice to lay down more length all in one shot and just route it all in one piece rather than having to do it in little chunks. These particular pieces, I think they're 6 feet long, which is pretty good, but it would be nice if they were longer or if you had more of them just to get more done all at once. Look at this tool. Look how tightly I can bend this. This thing's great. Well, folks, I've picked up a bit of a cold in the process of narrating this over a course of a few days here. We'll move on anyways. As you can see in this clip here, I've sort of mastered the art of pulling these nails out in quick succession. Almost every one of them seems to be staying now. I think I'm just kind of getting the hang of getting them in properly so that they don't lift out too easily. Yeah, this is definitely the way to go if you're going to give this a try. I'll tell you this for free, watching this playback as I'm narrating it, I can still feel the electric shocks through my sandals as I'm vacuuming up all this dust. So at the present moment, we've got both lanes completed all the way up to here. So I had previously mentioned about the possibility of taking this lane tighter to complete it back to where it was supposed to go, just to kind of give that car a bit more space between the edge of the track. So let's draw that out here using our little wire method that I had showed you previously. So the easiest way to find this center point here is to just measure the distance between the two lanes from the inside of the turn to the outside of the turn. And I've got about just shy of 445 mils, just maybe a little closer to 450. So if we kind of guesstimate the halfway point, 22, somewhere right here. I can actually see an old pencil mark here, so that's my assumption that's where that is. So let's take our wire and see if we can retrace this line from this point. Yep, it looks to be correct. So all I'm going to do is I want to see how far back I can jog this line. I'm thinking if I do about a 2.25 inch drawback, I'm going to move that center point 2.25 inches back, and then we'll do what we just did here, where we scribe.
Hey! Down in front! 9!
This pencil mark. Get this pencil in there without breaking the tip off it. There we go, just like that. And then draw. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So right about here, it's a little bit too tight of a radius, so I might just make a quick little adjustment here just to round that out a bit better. Yeah, just like this. Just gonna move my wire around till I hit kind of a spot that looks like it'll, no, not like that so much. There we go, it's okay. Kind of got 6 or 7 lines going on here, but we'll carry forward with this line here. This is that's our line. So we're gonna use that. This is what it looks like from above now. If I can get a better view. So we got kind of squeeze here, you could call that. And then we've got our changeover there, and underneath this guy right there. Oh, that doesn't look very good, does it? We'll have to do some repairs to that little area. What do you do? Sometimes being impatient doesn't pay off, but that right there is not going to work. I think we'll end up just wood filling that zone. Maybe there as well. We'll just reroute that. I'm just running a magnet through the guide to make sure to pick up any screw or nails that I might have missed. Yeah, there's bound to be a couple in there, just ones that rolled into the guide as I was vacuuming up. Just pick all these ones up too. One idea that just kind of dawned on me that I might try and for this track testing is to take a car and just drop a 9-volt battery or something inside of it, so it's basically self-propelled. I was just using it, pushing it along the track with my finger just to kind of see how, how it looked while I was driving around. And I thought to myself, man, it'd be handy if this thing just moved on its own. So I might test that theory on this car, see if I can just tap into the motor wires or maybe the braids somehow and just, I don't know, maybe a 9-volt might be too much, might go too fast, but maybe a series of AAAs or AA's, maybe 3 or 4 of them, just to kind of get like a 6-7 volt propulsion system going. That way I can just turn the car on, lay it in the track, and just watch it kind of meander through the lanes to see if there's any corrections that I need to do before I lay the copper tape down, because that's something that I definitely don't want to I don't want to lay it down and then find out that I have to make some sort of modification to a lane. So let's see if that works. Hello folks, we're back here again working on the track. Today I'm going to focus on fixing the parts of the slot where the guide is going to get jammed a little bit between my straight routed sections and the parts where I had routed on the curvature. There's 2 or 3 spots that need to be fixed, so we're going to get to repair those, and then we might start painting today if we can get around to it. Here we go. So specifically where I want to focus on repairing is spots like that. If we take this car, you can see it comes to a dead stop. That's no good. And I also want to fix this section here so that this car smoothly, it's jamming, it doesn't smoothly transition from this section to that section. So I've got a plan for that, and I'll show you what it is here in a second. Other than that, there's, what else over here? We're going to fix this spot here too, because I made kind of a mess out of that with the router. This here as well, I'll give that a little repair, and then just kind of a touch-up of those 2 locations as well. So I wanted to show how I'm going to repair this little zone here so that that car transfers from this section of its lane to this section. Right now the guide kind of hammerheads on this pointy bit, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to round this out a little bit like that so that it has a chance to get in the guide, and then it'll self-correct. So let's give this a try. Okay, I think we've got everything repaired here. Let's do a quick, where's the camera? Quick track rock here. I think we'll just do a quick track walk. Try and say that 5 times. So we'll go through this track walk here. This has been fixed. It's a little bit wider than usual, so I might do some wood filling and then just kind of cleanly route that again. The car goes through this gate pretty good now. I might just square that up here before I start wood filling. And then everything up to this point here, it looks all right. Other than that, I'll probably wood fill that. Just clean it up a pinch. And then all of the connection sections there between this curve and the straight, all tidied up. So I think we're ready to start wood filling. As you can see, all these little nail holes from when I was putting my flexible fence in are still present. So let's get all those filled in and we'll go from there. Actually, I think one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to make a self-driving car that doesn't require rails or braids or copper tape. So in a previous section of this video, I mentioned about creating an autonomous car here. So what I'm going to do, you can see how filthy this one is from all the dust on the track. So I'm going to hook it up to hopefully a 9-volt battery. And I have these little connectors here that I use for my axle box builds. You can buy these on Amazon. They come in a pack of 5 sets. There's 5 of each of these, if I'm not mistaken. As you can see, there's a male and a female pin. So I'm just going to crack this car open to see which of these I need in order to tap into the circuit board or just straight to the motor. And I'm hoping that a 9-volt battery will make this car drive at a reasonable rate around this track. I think it might be a little too fast, so we'll have to, I don't know, maybe tidy up the tires and hope that that's enough for it to stay on track. But worst case, I can just, I don't know, maybe get a couple of AA or AAAs instead of a 9 volts, maybe do like a 6-volt system. Anyways, let's try that out and see how it works. Okay, so I've got one of these cars open here, and we're just gonna go over what we're gonna do to doctor this thing up as an autopilot car on a wood track. Okay, so here is the inside of a digital Carrera car. Most of you have seen this, I'm sure. So I've got these two little plugs here. Now, you can see that the motor itself is connected to this purple and gray wire on the circuit board, and the motor is fed with a, call it a male plug on this side. This is the female side. So we can use this male one to just go straight into the motor, and my plan is to just jam the wire leads into that 9-volt to get this thing to start driving on its own. So let's see what happens here when we do that.
So the one part of this that kind of threw me off was the red wire, which you would assume would be the positive, is actually being connected to the negative of the 9-volt battery for forward tire rotation. So just keep that in mind when you put this together. Maybe you'll use something a little bit better than just jamming the wire into the leads of the battery.
I'm gonna put a big dollop of double-sided tape on this thing to kind of protect the circuit board a bit. I don't know how well this is going to work, but it's a trial run. Trial runs are usually quite janky. Okay folks, if this is not the strangest thing I've ever done, I don't know what is. So, trial run of the self-propelled car. It's probably a good thing that the track surface is not sticky, because this thing wants to go very fast. So I gotta put some sort of barrier at the end of this straight, just to kind of slow it down, let it run into that little spackle box. So let's get this thing on the track. Here we go. This is just to prove that the car is going to travel smoothly in its respective lane. A wire fell out. A janky wire fell out. Oh my god. Come on. Get it together. Here we go. Oh god, here we go. Okay, well, that lane works. Let's try the other lane. Okay, let's try the other lane. See how janky my setup is for that step. Here it comes. Wow. This is not the silliest thing I've ever done. I think that's proved the point well enough. The track is smooth enough for a wild self-propelled car. I wouldn't recommend this, but it's good for a laugh. All right, let's go work on the track a bit more here. Oh my gosh, the track is missing. Just kidding. Track has been delivered at this point. It is now January at the point of this video here. The track had to make a delivery to my dad's garage before the Christmas break, so I had finished it prior to ending this video, but part 3 is still to be submitted as well, and part 3 is generally just about painting and doing all the decor. So I wanted to just make a note that this track is ultimately finished at this point, even though the video is only part 2 of the way through. We'll still make sure to cover all the bases on how it was completed up till the point of delivery, so don't worry about it being not present during the final part of part 2. So here's a little clippet of what's to come. This is borderline close to the project being finished is what you're seeing here. As you can tell, both lanes are fully copper taped. Some machinery's been laid down, not all of it. Not what you see here is only partially of what's completed as of today. What I will cover though is how I wired in this circuit as well as how I powered it. This track actually has a unique power supply that I've made using a Ryobi battery and a couple of little voltage potentiometers and a voltage display. So it's a fully independent power supply that doesn't use any wall circuit power. It's just strictly a drill battery that has internal voltage protection, just so it doesn't crater when you're using the track for numerous hours at a time. So we'll cover that in part 3 as well as the painting and all the scenery. Until next time, thanks again everyone for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe and give a thumbs up for this little video. Appreciate it a lot. Thank you very much.